Utthita Parsvakonasana, extended lateral angle stretch. Jane begins in Tadasana, jumps into Utthita Parsvakonasana, and moves into Parsvakonasana. Then she bends her right leg and sinks into Virabhadrasana 2. Next she takes her right hand toward the floor and her left arm up and over her head into Utthita Parsvakonasana. As we look at her pose, we can see how she's twisted her torso to get her hand to the floor. Her left arm and leg are bent, her right hip swung back as her knee came forward. She isn't sure which way to turn her head. Jane has lost her Virabhadrasana too. Let's have her stand up and try the other side. Jane wants to keep her alignment from Virabhadrasana 2 as she stretches her torso to the side. Then she wants to bend at the hip, just as in Utthita Trikonasana, to take her left hand down. Jane's hip and right foot came up as her hand went down. She bent forward so she could put her hand on the floor. Let's give her a block. Now she can use her left hand and arm to help her rotate her chest toward the ceiling. Then Jane wants to stretch from her hip to her heel and from her hip to the tips of her fingers. The block lets Jane bring her hips down and bend her knee to 90 degrees. Then Jane wants to move her left knee back toward her arm as she brings her left hip forward. She wants to keep her torso in line with her left leg. Next, Jane wants to stretch her right arm out and over her head as her right foot presses into the floor. Her body should form a straight line from the outside of her right heel to the tips of her right fingers. Finally, she turns her head to look up under her right arm. To exit the pose, Jane straightens her legs, lifts from the base of her pelvis, and pulls up on her arm to return to Parsvakonasana. She then moves into Utthita Parsvakonasana before jumping back to Tadasana. Let's watch Jane's skeleton in Utthita Parsvakonasana. As we look at her initial pose, we can see how Jane lost her alignment from Virabhadrasana 2. Her right thigh is no longer parallel to the floor or her mat. Her torso has twisted toward the floor and her left arm and leg are bent. Let's have her try the other side. This time Jane works to keep her Virabhadrasana 2 as she stretches her torso to the left. She wants to keep her torso in line with her thigh as she reaches toward the floor. Her right hand and foot stretch away from each other, lengthening her side. Finally, she turns her head to look up from under her right arm. To exit, Jane straightens her legs as she lifts from the base of her pelvis, pulls up on her arm, and returns to Parsvakonasana. She then moves into Utthita Parsvakonasana before jumping back to Tadasana.